All right, now I would like to officially call to order the Tuesday, January 18th, 2022 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. And pursuant to the extension of Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, this public meeting of the Town of Bolton Conservation Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but the public can access this meeting while in progress by Zoom video communications. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by telephone, cell phone, or personal computer using Zoom. A few guidelines along with that. Please utilize the chat or raise hand function if you have a question for the board when it gets open for public comment. You'll be asked to remain on mute until you're addressed by the board. And participants are required to display their first and last names if they are logging in via Zoom. That said, per tradition, we will start with a roll call. I am Brian Barabee.
I am Bill Payne.
Jillian Glasanos.
And Rebecca Longfall.
All right. First up this evening, Rebecca, it looks like we have an intro for a large project relatively at 711/13 Main Street.
We do, however, I am not seeing them in the waiting room. Hey. Yep. I do not see them in the waiting room.
Okay.
And I do not have an email or anything from them. So, Brian, if you'd like to do the minutes while we wait or one of the other items, I know we also have an extension request on the agenda, and that can be taken out of order as well.
Okay. Why don't we do the minutes first? So for the members that were here, did you have a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting? Did you have any edits, comments, changes, anything along those lines? Or if you would need more time to look through the minutes, please let me know. Does anybody need more time or have any edits or? Okay, hearing none, I don't either. What's that, Bill? I'm sorry.
I'm all set.
Okay. All right. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes for our January 4th, 2022 meeting as drafted and submitted at this evening's meeting. Do I hear a second for that?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, starting with Bill,
Aye.
Jillian,
Aye.
and Rebecca, I am an aye as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
Do you want to move on to the request for an extension of an OOC for Harvard Road 38 and 39?
I'm comfortable with that. I did see one of their representatives present.
That was my next question. Okay. If there is a rep here for 38/39 Harvard Road, are you prepared to give us a quick overview of what you are requesting?
Mr. Chairman, this is Seth Donahoe with Dilson Roy. Can you hear me?
Yes, Seth.
Great. So I am here on behalf of the applicant to request an extension of the order of conditions. I'd be happy to run through it with you.
Please.
So this is 38 to 39 Harvard Road. This is two lots that the commission reviewed that had a small wetland crossing associated with it. Presently, the site's under construction. The access route is in, and the big item was the wetland crossing, which was a culvert that is in place right now, and erosion controls are around it. They were not able to complete the construction prior to the onset of winter, and so that's why we're here to request an extension of the order.
Okay. I can somewhat remember this project. Rebecca, have you been out to this project recently?
I have not. The applicant did send me some images. I will be going out to the site tomorrow. Prior to that, the site's been relatively stable, even with some of the earthwork for the access road and then the upland portion of the site where the two single family homes are being built. More recently, the request had been to just maintain the erosion and sediment controls. Seth had forwarded me some information from their site manager who was out and had repaired the sediment and erosion controls. So I'm just going to go out to confirm it, but they did send some photos of that. And just to add to Seth's comment about flagging some of the jurisdictional area aspects of this project, I believe there's 2 restoration areas as well. Is that correct, Seth?
There are, so
But
that's
that-
associated with the actual wetland crossing, and those will be completed as soon as weather allows.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I remember going out to this site originally and conditioning this site originally. It would seem like we would normally just issue the extension if there weren't any extenuating circumstances as to why not. And Rebecca, I'm not hearing that you feel there are any significant circumstances under which we wouldn't just extend this order.
I do not have any extenuating circumstances to extend the order. And then just as a reminder to you, Mr. Chair, and our commission, under our bylaw, we're only allowed to extend for 1 year.
Okay. Any commission members have any questions about this or comments? All right. Rebecca, is there any member of the public here tonight to comment on this?
I see no one.
I don't see any hands raised. Okay. In that case, I'd like to call a roll call vote and propose that the commission issue a 1-year extension to the order of conditions for for Harvard Road lots 38/39.
Brian, I would also suggest to highlight the DEP file number, which is 1120668.
File number 1120668. Is that correct, Rebecca? Okay. All right. All those in favor for extending that order of conditions for an additional year, please respond by saying aye. And we'll start with Bill.
Aye.
Jillian.
Aye.
All right. Rebecca, I am an aye as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Seth. How are we doing on time? I was gonna say we could do we see if the reps are here for Long Hill Road?
Sorry, I see no one for that specific item.
Okay.
But I also am not sure if they were going to be present for the meeting.
Okay. And you're not seeing any of the reps for the 7-11, 7-13 yet?
No,
All right. Do you want to, we have 5 more minutes before we can start talking Taggart. Do you want to run us through some of the other updates?
sure, I can do that quickly. We already addressed the minutes. We do have a couple new members or a couple new interested individuals who have been discussing and thinking about becoming members. We do have one on the call today who's been communicating with me via email. So we are going to be tabling that discussion until the next meeting so that the individual has a little bit more time to think it over and experience another meeting. But I do want to say we appreciate you sticking through our meetings and sort of understanding and getting that experience, because it does say a lot. I do have a request for the Conservation Commission to consider a vote to approve the annual report. This is what quite literally goes into that wonderful annual report booklet. And it's a summary of the past fiscal year and then the calendar year. And so it breaks down what was expended, what went back to the general fund, and then summarizing in more of a narrative format what went on throughout the year. That needs to be voted on before it can be printed and put into that larger document. And then we have the Rattlesnake Conservation Area guided walk on Tuesday, January 25th, starting at 12 p.m. from Trailhead 1, which is off of Main Street, Route 117. And we'll be going to the Sawyer Grist Mill site. Then we have the current action grant program going on. At the end of this month, the project website should be up and running, which is very exciting. So you'll see a link to that on agendas going forward. But again, that is the Nashua River Communities Resilient Lands Management Project. That is in collaboration with the town of Clinton and focusing on what it sounds like is resilient land management. And we are still looking for individuals to participate in that. So if you are interested, even if you have students at the high school, we're looking to get students involved as well, or other community members. So please feel free to send me an email and or express your own interest. And then, of course, we have the volunteer land steward position open still. I did receive one inquiry related to that, and I'm waiting to hear back from her. So fingers crossed, we'll see.
Had you sent the annual report around our section of it from it?
That should have come through with the packet.
Yep, the original meeting packet. Okay.
Should have. I think I uploaded the packet. Yep. Yeah, so it may have been, I believe I sent two. So the majority of it was Thursday, and then there should have been another one just after that.
Okay.
But if not, I can send it and we can vote at the next meeting.
Is that going to put us in a time crunch?
I believe they are due February 8th. I can double check. I can talk to the town secretary, but either way, it still requires a vote. So if it puts us in a time crunch, it puts us in a time crunch, unfortunately.
So our next, excuse me, our next meeting is it February 1st?
Yes.
Excuse me. Okay, so that would give us give them at least a week.
Yes.
All right. I thought I had seen it. I have to admit, I did not read through it and look at it as closely as I should have. Well, usually I'll try to go through the full packet. And I saw that and I didn't really focus on it. So I would like more time with it. I don't know if Jillian and Bill have stronger feelings one way or the other, but that's one I'd like to read through again, just quick. Okay. All right. That's it. I think I can now open. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now open a public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a notice of intent for the Taggart Forest Land trailhead improvements, the installation of 1 to 2 gravel parking spaces along the southern side of Furbish Mill Road, and the installation of new trail crossing for passive recreation access into the property. Rebecca, do you want to give us a quick overview of this or reminder of this?
Sure. So this is the property that the town had recently acquired. And currently, you can all see my screen again, correct? Okay. Currently, there is technically not an access through the frontage aside from up a very steep slope. So rather than going up the frontage here, if you can see my cursor at the frontage of Taggart, there is this lower area that does cross bordering vegetated wetland, but it's a much more gradual route. And there's actually an existing cart path on the opposite side that then connects to the loop trail, which is an existing cart path, or excuse me, it's not a loop trail yet. This access here is shown in this image. This is what it exists. This sign has actually been removed. And as you can see, there is obviously skunk cabbage. You have some additional wetland vegetation in here. It's almost like a formed gully from drainage along the roadway. It's across the road from the perennial stream. So we're in that outer riparian area. This board was put here very temporarily for the ribbon cutting ceremony to access into the Taggart property. That obviously needs to be replaced with something that is acceptable and obviously permitted. And what the proposal currently is in fact to replace that with one of our footbridges that we typically see on other conservation parcels. In addition to that, in this proposal, we are also looking to, I'm sorry, that just disappeared on me. We are also looking to put in 2 gravel parking spaces if 2 will fit, otherwise it will just be 1. And this is just some light grading along the road shoulder there. I'm just trying to pull this up again. But I did speak to the DPW director. He does not see this as an issue because there's already some riprap and gravel along the side of the road shoulder just before that skunk cabbage. I'm going to share my screen again. So here where this pink line is, you can see that's actually where the crossing is. So it crosses that bordering vegetated wetland. This parcel here is the existing single family home. And this where it shows a roadway or subdivision roadway going in, that's actually right next to the very steep slope and was from a prior proposal for this parcel before the town acquired it. But this was just for the purposes of showing the topography, the wetland resource areas, where this is leading into the property. It's a conservation property for passive recreation purposes and to access that use. It may be considered a limited project, or the commission has the ability to view it as a minor project. Any questions, thoughts, concerns?
I didn't have any. This one I did read through because I was curious to see how this would have come out. And as it was proposed, I didn't have strong thoughts, feelings, changes. And I'm trying to think what were the 2 options, that it's a minor disturbance or.
So the commission would still consider issuing an order of conditions, but
yeah.
It may be considered a limited project, or it may be seen as minor work within the buffer zone, or even within resource area, because we're not actually, this board here is actually sitting right on top of a bank or the edge of the gully there. But the actual footbridge is going to extend beyond it. So it's actually sitting on top on either side of this area and not even inside like this one seems to be.
So I did not have a problem with it as it's submitted. Other commission members have questions or thoughts?
Yeah, Brian, I don't have a problem with it either. I think it's minimal impact.
Yeah, no issues. Good to see that there will be some parking. I think to keep people off the shoulder. It's a already precarious road. So that's good that people will be able to park off the road.
Mhm.
That's a good point.
And as a reminder too, this is partially to accommodate some of the land grant requirements, which needs to have access along the frontage there. But as we discussed in prior meetings, we are also working on a longer route that will start along the frontage and connect to the Forbush Mill Fields, where obviously there's off-street parking there.
That is the hope. Are there any members of the public here tonight to comment on this?
Again, members of the public, you may raise your hand or turn on your camera and physically wave, or you can use the chat function. And I am seeing none.
I am seeing that as well. All right. So that said, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing for Taggart Forest Land. Do I hear a second for closing?
I second Brian.
All right, all those in favor, starting with Bill,
Aye.
Jillian,
Aye.
all right, and Rebecca, I am an aye as well.
Thank you. Did you want to vote on conditions at the next meeting, or would you prefer to do that this evening?
Why don't we hold off until next meeting if that's possible?
That's
Just
fine.
because I kind of want to have them written out better. Yeah. Okay. How are we on time? Rebecca, are the applicants for 711-713 Main Street in the waiting room, or do you spot them? Sorry.
I do not. We have no one in the waiting room, and I'm not seeing anyone present for that particular item.
Okay. I should
We-
mention, correct me if I'm wrong here, Rebecca, that if anybody's waiting to discuss lot 5 or lot 6 on Meadow Road, starting at 7:30, I believe the applicant has requested a continuation as they're still waiting for a DEP file number. And that said, we will probably just continue the hearing tonight and not take comment on it. So if anyone who was waiting specifically for those, it seems like those will be continued until our February 1st meeting. Which I have more than that. Rebecca, does it look like anybody is in the waiting room for the request for release of funds for 147 Long Hill Road?
Yes, Maureen has joined us.
Aha. Maureen, would you be willing to give an update now? We can take this kind of at any point in time, and we're at a open spot in the schedule.
Maybe she stepped away.
Let's say if we can unmute her.
I did ask to unmute, so that notification will definitely show up.
She may have. Okay. Well, we can hold off on that one too. We have a few minutes before, we're gonna have actually a little bit of time before we can, open a few different things.
One thing I will say is for the next meeting on February 1st, I believe 7:30 is the first opening. When
Thank
you're
you.
continuing things.
Yeah.
Oh, Maureen is present. She unmuted herself.
Maureen, if you are able to hear me and you're willing to, would you be, are you able to discuss 147 Long Hill Road at this point?
Oh,
Lose her again.
oh, she's coming, I think. There we go. Maureen, we cannot hear you yet. You're unmuted. though. Oh, there you
I'm
go.
here.
Okay.
Okay. Maureen, did you want to just give us a quick update on what we're looking for tonight or what the request is this evening?
For the 147 Long Hill Road?
Correct. I'm sorry, for 147 Long Hill Road.
Yes. So essentially, a bond was posted by the applicant. It was approximately a $30,000 bond. And as the commission recalls, they voted to issue a partial certificate of compliance to monitor the 10 additional plants that we put in for the next 2 years. So we are requesting to have a portion of that bond returned. I think we're allowing about $1,500 to be still set aside in case those plants do fail. So we'd just like the commission to consider this request this evening.
Okay. Any commission members have questions or comments? Rebecca, do you have any questions or comments regarding this one?
Sure. I think it is a valid request in general. After I reviewed the order of conditions under I think it's the pre-construction conditions, section 5 of the bylaw order. It breaks down the collection of funds, and Maureen's correct. There was a $31,559.25 deposited to the town to be held as an escrow for the replacement of bordering vegetated wetlands and restoration of the adjacent upland resource area and the maintenance replacement of these restoration areas. And then, of course, it always talks about transfer of ownership, and then the failure to assign rights and responsibilities when ownership is transferred. The transfer of ownership is not relevant at this time. Obviously, Maureen's coming forward at the request of her client, requesting the release of those funds. It states 1 year after completion, the owner can submit a report, and then the commission will review it. And this can request half of the funds and the amount held in the amount of $15,000, $779.63. And that can be released. I think that is a reasonable request before I move forward with the rest of this. I think it's reasonable because the commission issued a partial, so clearly a significant portion of the work as discussed through previous meetings has been completed and the commission is comfortable with it. The end of this section talks about 2 years after completion, but it also states at the end there, when the commission finds the replacement area and restoration areas are satisfactorily established in compliance with the approved plans, the commission shall release the balance of the escrow, which will be that additional $15,000, $779.63, excuse me. So in my mind, the commission definitely has the ability, unless they feel otherwise, to release $15,000 $779.63. I think if the commission wants to release a portion of that second half, that is reasonable as well. However, where the commission issued a partial and we know what items are outstanding and we're waiting for a growing period as well, I think at the end of that period and a complete is issued, then the full would be released. So I will turn it back to the commission for their input, but those would be my question or my comments.
Okay. Any members of the commission have further comments or questions based off what we just heard? All right. Are there any members of the public here tonight to comment on this particular one, this particular hearing?
I see no one at this time.
Okay. Did we receive any comments or questions from members of the public regarding this hearing?
We did. We
Correspondence?
received some correspondence via email from an abutter, and her concerns were that although the majority of erosion and sediment controls were removed, again, this is outside of the slope on lot 5, because I know the commission established we were going to keep that there.
Yep.
This is relative to the restoration area. Some of that silt fencing, we received some images, and of course there's snow now, so this was taken probably yesterday, if not today, where those erosion controls are still in place. And that was part of the partial COC, was the allowance and the request to remove that silt fence and sedimentation control. So the comment from the abutter was relative to tying the release of funds to the replication or restoration area once that's removed. And I had simply relayed exactly what's in the order, that the commission's able to consider the release of funds based on what it's held for. So that is what we received today.
Okay. I'll let other commission members weigh in, but I think I would lean towards the partial as it was set up in the original OOC, where it's the half back, it's the 15,779.63. And that when we go for the full certificate, at that point, we release the full escrow. That's the way I would lean. Any commission members have strong thoughts, feelings one way or another?
No, I can agree with that, Brian.
I agree. It's reasonable.
Okay. In that case, Rebecca, I'd like to make a motion that that the commission vote to release 50% of the escrow for 147 Long Hill Road, the amount of $15,779.63. All those in favor of this partial escrow release, please signify by saying aye, and we'll start with Bill,
Aye.
Jillian,
Aye.
and Rebecca. I am an aye as well.
Okay, well, thank you for the consideration. I do appreciate it, and have a great evening.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Maureen. Take care.
You too.
All right. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue for the public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a request for a notice of intent for Lot 5 Meadow Road, new construction of a residential driveway within the 100-foot buffer zone and 100-foot adjacent upland resource area. Rebecca, do we have an update on this?
We do. The applicant has requested a continuation on this and then the next lot as well, as they have not received their DEP file number nor any associated comments. I will say that 2 commission members and myself, along with the site manager and 2 of the engineers, one being the site manager, conducted a site visit, and it, as usual, makes things very clear on site And I did not have any additional questions on site. They had staked out the center line of the driveway, the septic area. They expressed the limit of work and the limit of grading. Same thing with the house location and associated infrastructure. So I don't know if any of the other commission members wanted to express if they had concerns while on site or not.
No, the one thing I was going to say is last time there was a question about the filtration systems down by the street and that they weren't functioning as well from the other driveway that's similar to what this one's proposed as. And is there any update on that, Rebecca? Did we hear anything back regarding that?
Yes, I had reached out to the DPW director, and I would encourage individuals who are concerned about that to reach out to him if they have further questions. But when he reviewed the site, he reviewed the plans as well, again, just to make sure when he was on site, he did not see any substantial issues. There was not an icing in the roadway at that time that was being contributed by the driveway or sourced from the driveway. This proposed project as well is going to have drainage system along the base before it gets to the roadway. And it's actually outside of the right of way for that purpose to ensure that the water is being contained on site. But I would encourage individuals who were concerned with that other lot that had raised some questions to please contact the DPW director because he's the individual who looks at the right of way itself. And I went out as well to look at this particular issue, and I did not see the drainage problems that seem to occur there. It's possible that just with excess precipitation, it pooled within the roadway, but I did not observe that at that time either, and neither did the DPW director, to my knowledge.
Yeah, I would say I was out on the site visit as well. And that whatever questions I may have, I'll reserve for the applicant. Still looking at the plan, but it did make a lot more sense getting out there and just taking a look. I don't know, Bill, if you have any initial thoughts or comments.
I was out there too, Brian, and I think the one thing I came away with that I didn't ask at the time because I didn't think of it is there were a lot of mature trees. And as you're looking at the map here in the top right part of the map, and how many trees would be cut down in the resource area, or will we have any input into those trees? What will be removed?
All right. So
Bill, I will share that question with the applicant.
Thank you.
Okay. So that said, I'm going to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for, so this was lot 5 Meadow Road until our next public meeting, Tuesday, February 1st at 7:30 p.m. Do I hear a second for continuing?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, starting with Bill,
Aye.
Jillian,
Aye.
and Rebecca, I am an aye as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
And along those same lines, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue the open public hearing for under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a notice of intent filed for Lot 6 Meadow Road, the new construction of a residential driveway and a 5-bedroom dwelling. Proposed site layout of the house and septic will require grading within the 100-foot buffer area, adjacent upland resource area, and the 100-foot vernal pool habitat. Rebecca, is there an update on this?
Quite literally the same. As we know, it's the shared driveway. So the applicant has requested a continuation until the next meeting, as this has not received a DEP file number either. And Bill, I will share your question relative to both lots.
All right. Any other initial comments on lot 6 right now? Right. So I'd like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for lot 6 Meadow Road until our next public meeting, Tuesday, February 1st, 2020 at 7:40 PM. Do I hear a second for continuing?
I second, Brian.
All right, all those in favor, starting with Bill.
Aye.
All right, Jillian,
Aye.
Rebecca, I am an I as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
We haven't seen anybody show up for 7-Eleven/13 Main Street.
I have not, but I did notice in a butter for the Long Hill Road common driveway is on. So I'm just going to provide a brief summary if that's okay, Mr. Chair.
That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. Maureen Harold of Norse Environmental was on the call earlier. Because it's not a public hearing, it can be taken out of order. So we did take that out of order since we had some continued hearings as you're hearing now. The commission voted to release half of the funds as is laid out in the order of conditions, and the partial COC was issued. We did bring up that there is additional silt fence and erosion controls that need to be removed from the restoration and replication area to be in compliance as the partial COC required. And in addition to that, when the full COC is issued and the complete certification, at that time, the commission would then consider the release of the additional and the remainder of the funds. I hope that was a good summary, Mr. Chair.
I think that was an excellent summary. Yes.
Okay.
I think it was if I remember correctly, the total is 15,779.63 was released, and that the town is still holding to make sure, basically for the replanning, and that the erosion controls and everything gets removed and renaturalized. We are still holding the sum of 15,779.63. So I hope that would be sufficient funds if we need to actually get in and do the work ourselves.
It would be.
Yeah.
You are welcome to be a butter who just commented.
You're welcome. Okay, so we have still about 5 minutes before our last public hearing tonight,
Yes.
which would be Century Mill Road. Well, I can ask now, any commission members have any new business? Sorry, as I go through. We have about 5 more minutes left.
Yep. I mean, if commission members or anyone on the meeting need to stretch for 5 minutes, that's acceptable, but just please be back here at 7:50 or like 7:49.
Should do that as well.
Mr. Chair, while individuals take a step away if they need to, would you like me to have the applicant key up the plan that they're presenting this evening?
That would be fantastic. Yes.
Okay. I think I saw Matt, unless it's Rachel. Oh, yes, it is Rachel. Or Dean and Scott. Do any of you have the presentation, or would you like me to just share my screen?
Hi, good evening. So I know that Dean is here and Scott's here. It's up to either of them. If Scott wants to go over the plans and have it shared from his screen, that's fine. If it's easier for me to do it or for Rebecca to do it, either's fine with me.
Rebecca, I can share if you like. Just need to give you permission.
Okay, Scott, you should be able to.
Sorry, I'm having a little trouble. Just give me a sec.
Yep.
There we go.
That's perfect. Thank you. All right, so we'll just wait for the time for the hearing and then you can start.
Rebecca, I have 7:50 as long as I see Jillian's back. Is Bill back?
Bill, give a hello.
I'm here.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. That's at the Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue the public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a notice of intent for Century Mill Road, map 3.D, parcel 75, regarding the proposed construction of 3 single-family homes and the widening and paving of an existing gravel driveway. And does someone representing the applicants tonight have an update specifically to the tree plan along the driveway?
Yeah, good evening. My name's Rachel Watsky. I'm one of the attorneys acting on behalf of the applicant. As mentioned before the opening of the hearing, Scott Hayes and Dean Charter are with me here tonight as well. At the end of the last meeting, I think our to-do list was to try to schedule the meeting with the tree warden and to have Scott Hayes finish the revisions to the tree plan and the site plans as needed. Scott has had a chance to do so and submitted those to Rebecca today. It's what you see in front of you is the tree plan. So it's pulled out the specific focus on the trees that are to be removed and the ones that are going to remain. The site plan has been somewhat revised, to my understanding, to just show the areas of impact still hatched, but to clean things up a bit so there isn't confusion with the trees being removed on that plan. Scott will be able to go into more detail on what changes were made to each of those plans and should be able to answer your questions.
Good evening. Hi. After our last meeting, I went out and walked the driveway. I was reconciling the tree locations out there with what was on the plan, and kind of noticed that there were a number of trees along the driveway edge that they're actually beyond the limit of work, beyond the erosion controls, that weren't on the plan, but within proximity to the driveway. So what we did was locate the missing trees that are along the driveway. There were no more trees proposed to be removed. They just weren't shown because they're beyond the original limits of work. So what we did was, just walk the driveway and verified all the trees that are shown, verified all the trees proposed to be removed, added, I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing, but there are some red maples and a red oak in this area that weren't on the prior version of the plan. They're beyond the limit of work and they're proposed to remain. We added those on just to show them. And we picked up, there's another white pine at the end of the driveway that was not shown, right at the end of the turnout. We added that to the plan. So it was kind of cleaning up the trees in proximity to the driveway and confirming what was proposed to be removed versus what was remaining. Also, when I was out there, I marked all the trees that are proposed to be removed with a pink paint dot. So they're clearly marked in the field if anyone wants to go and look at that. Also on the individual lots, the work within the buffer zone. On lot 3, we located all of the trees within the buffer zone work area, which is this area here. There were some white pine and some red maple on the back of lot 1, and we just identified each tree over 6 inches in diameter that was within that area, whether they're proposed on lot 3 in this case are all proposed to be removed. And then on lots 4, there's the hatched area here is the temporary water line disturbance area. I took a look at this. I mean, the water line and the erosion control lines are staked out there, so it's pretty easy to follow where the well and water line go. There are no substantial trees in this area that's proposed to be restored following the well installation. So it's really just scrubby vegetation there. And then this area in the buffer zone here, where there be a substantial amount of fill place for the septic system, there were trees that we located and had to mark them. We were show them by species size and to note those to be removed associated with the septic system construction. There were some other trees along the periphery of the work, 30-inch red maple right on the edge by the erosion control line at the end of the wall. That shouldn't need to be removed for construction, sort of along the edge of the work. Similarly, up here, there's a 15-inch red maple that was right at the toe of the slope at the periphery of the work that won't need to be removed. So, didn't mean to zoom in there. Need to get my hand back. And then at the rear of lot 4, there's buffer zone associated with the BVW off-site on the Boy Scout land. This wetland here, this is the Stonewall property line, and this is the rear of, this is lot 4, it's the rear of lot 4. So we've got a shed that's being relocated from where it's on the property line onto lot 4 to conform to setback. And we also picked up the trees and that are within the buffer zone to that wetland offsite in that area. So this area here is the area at the rear of lot 4. It's in the buffer zone of that offsite wetland. So we picked up the trees there and show the ones to be removed. Really just those need to be removed for relocation of the shed, as well as for regrading of this area is very undulating and kind of disturbed and just not very smooth grade wise. So we're just going to clean up the grading in that area to kind of match the cart path that runs along the stone wall, rather than have these kind of steep embankment type slopes along the side of the back of this lot. And we added a few of the trees in the vicinity of where the existing shed is now, that were also proposed to be removed. One's very close to the 100-foot buffer, and there's a few smaller trees immediately around the shed that were proposed to be removed. This is really just to do a full inventory of all the trees that were within buffer zone and their disposition of whether we're proposing to remove them or not. I'm sorry, Rebecca, do you have a question?
Scott, it was me, sorry. I just wanted to reiterate that, like you said, this is just labeling and noting which trees are to be removed. It's not changing the proposed grading. That has not been changed, correct?
Correct. And that's really about it for the plans. And so we what I've done is it made the tree planting and mitigation plan 2 sheets, and has specified the tree removal as well as the proposed mitigation planting areas on this plan alone. And then on the site development plan, just removed a lot of that detail so that the site construction details are more easily. It's just really a matter of just making the plans more easily readable by separating the information on two plan sets. Also on lot 2, I didn't mention, there were a few trees that are in the 200-foot riverfront, right along the edge of the where it's actually just a single driveway to lot 1, that we're not proposing to remove, but we did add them to the plan because they are within the riverfront. 30-inch red oak right along the stone wall here, a 10-inch red oak and a 15-inch red maple, and a 6-inch red maple in this vicinity here. We're proposing to do mitigation plantings in that area. I just wanted to be clear that those trees are to remain. That's really the extent of the plan revisions.
Okay. Any commission members have initial questions or thoughts based on what we just heard? Let's see any. Rebecca, did you have any additional thoughts or comments?
I do, but I did not get the chance to read through the mitigation plantings and the expression of that. So, and we also haven't carried out our site visit, but once I read through that, I think I'll be able to email the applicant and then let the commission know if I have those questions still, because they may just be addressed through that document. Additionally, I do know our tree warden did communicate to the applicant that he should be submitting his written statement. And I know the applicant had reached out with some availability, trying to coordinate a site visit over the next week or two. So if the commission knows there are any days within the next 2 weeks that they are definitely not available for a site visit, I think that would be constructive during this meeting as well, just to state them. Otherwise, you can communicate it to me individually via email. I have suggested to the applicant that either early mornings or later afternoons before sunset typically have worked in the past, and to just be aware of that. But those are really what I have right now regarding this specific item.
Okay. Are there any members of the public here tonight to comment or have questions on what we've heard this evening?
Again, you can use the raise hand function or the chat function to request. Richard has a comment.
Okay, if you could unmute him.
He is unmuted.
All right, Richard, if you have a comment or question, we would love to hear it.
Okay, can we look at the proposed permeable driveway, please? The whole of it. And if you could zoom in then just on the, not the whole plan, just the permeable driveway. There's lots of red maples there that are not marked, and yet they sit, you know, just adjacent to the proposed driveway. And they've got pretty good diameters. I went to the United States Forest Service, Department of Agriculture, and their rule of thumb in terms of the critical root zone is 1.5 feet for every, for every foot. Do I have this right? For every inch of diameter of the tree. So if we've got a 10-inch tree, that's 10.5 feet, or is it 15? No, it's 15 feet. Well, certainly a lot of those red maples are within 15 feet. I mean, much closer than 15 feet. I would think that their critical root zone would be adversely affected. So I'm kind of curious why, those aren't noted here, or are just in a sense not even being discussed. The other thing is, Rachel mentioned that there's going to be no regrading, and yet Scott used the term smoothing with regard to the trees on the north edge of lot 4. Those are his words, not mine. Smoothing to me means, he said there's kind of a drop in the topography. You can look at the topo lines and see it. So clearly the intent is to smooth out between the swale of soil that's around the house over to, the old cart path. That's substantial regrading in that particular section.
Mr. Chair.
Clarify?
Yeah,
Please.
I'm probably going to state exactly what Rachel's, we're like matching each other speaking, but
I guess I must not have been clear enough. I was not saying that nothing was being proposed. I was saying that there were no changes
yes.
from the prior
To the
plan.
original,
The
yeah.
trees were now just being shown to make sure it was all clear. I wasn't saying that, oh, nothing's being done, they're just removing trees for no reason. It's since the prior changes, nothing has been changed other than adding the tree information.
Does that make sense, Richard?
If that's what we're saying is what's on the drawing, but we just heard Scott say that they're taking those trees out to facilitate smoothing, okay?
That was, Mr. Chair, if I may, that was part
Yes.
of the original plan that was submitted, and that's exactly what Rachel was just clarifying. This is that same plan, just the only thing is they added another page to make this less busy. The contours and the proposed grading is the same as what we've seen on previous plans and what's been described in previous plans.
Right. So
This plan differs by just showing that tree removal. So that is not new as far as what they're proposing to do in that area.
I understand. So
Okay.
the smoothing is not indicated in this drawing.
No, it is.
The proposed grading is shown on lot 4 as was in prior versions of the plan. All that's been added is the trees that are being removed in that area to facilitate that grade.
But so what I'm saying is the smoothing is not indicated in this drawing.
That's not correct. If I may, when you look at the plan Scott has shown, when it has, once it's zoomed out, there's the areas that have a box around an elevation. That
Yeah.
is where the grade is to be changed. That smoothing that he describes.
Ah,
So that is showing the change.
so what you're saying is the topo lines that I see here to the north of that proposed dwelling are in fact what it's going to be.
Yes. So the way topo lines are shown generally is so to the right, it has the lines that are the dotted line. That is topo that exists. And then the filled in line is what's proposed.
The solid line
Yes.
proposed. Uh-huh.
If we could maybe circle back to the trees along the driveway. And I know at the last meeting, Dean had already addressed and in some detail, critical root zone and the comparison, but more importantly, what had also been relayed was alterations to that critical root zone and what a tree can survive and what would cause its imminent death, essentially, and I'm paraphrasing. But Dean, I don't know if you want to just briefly summarize if Mr. Chair would like you to. Otherwise, if you are comfortable with what was stated at the last meeting, I can certainly refer to those minutes, which should be online as well. But Mr. Chair.
I was just say, if you're able to do a quick summary, that would be fantastic. And again, I don't think you have to go into super levels of detail, but just a quick summary of what we discussed last time.
Great, yes. So various authorities have different definitions of critical root zone. The 1 inch to 1.5 feet that was just cited is a little beyond what I've seen in the past. Typically, it's 1 inch to 1 foot. But the important thing to keep in mind is that with these trees that are right along the edge of the driveway, the red maples specifically noted, yeah, indeed, there's going to be some root disturbance along one side of the critical root zone of the trees. But the entire back area, probably 75% of the root zone of the trees, will not be impacted at all. Barring anything unusual, and certainly it's important to keep control of the construction process. So red maple responds fairly well to root disturbance. So I'm not particularly concerned. I did walk the site after, this newest plan was in development, and walked through there, and I didn't see anything of any particular concern. Yes, the trees will be impacted. But I don't feel there's any need for excessive concern that a lot of those are going to die afterwards. I'm pretty comfortable with the plan the way it is.
Thank you for summing that up again. Richard, I'm not sure if that answers your question or if you have an additional question.
Well, unless I was to go out there and measure every tree and, kind of do the math on each tree, then I would specifically know. I'm not trying to cause a problem with Dean, but I went over there and walked the driveway too, and it just seems to me that there's a lot of trees that are very close to the drive, and it's kind of hard for me to imagine them surviving this type of excavation. I did have one other question. To the south of the dwelling and lot 4, south of the proposed leach field, some white pines are being removed. Why are they being removed? I mean, is it just to make more of a meadow there for the benefit of the homeowner?
So I want to make sure I'm looking at the right. Okay, there's the lot 4.
and you can see to the south and east, see there's, there's quite a few trees that are going to come out there. And I'm just kind of curious, like, why?
I'm wondering if Scott or Rachel could answer that. I'm wondering if it has to do with septic, but
So just due to proximity to the septic system, the grade is being altered substantially there. There's quite a bit of fill. They wouldn't survive placement of that much fill in that area. So, those trees in that area are, this is probably about 4+ feet of fill through here. And then these are in the breakout slope, just not likely to survive, more than 2 feet of filling around them. So proposing to remove them when the area is regraded.
Rich, do
clear.
you have any additional questions?
I'm wondering now what's going to happen with all the water that normally went into that depression is now going to be coming onto my property, given the fact that that's all being raised. But I suppose that's an issue for another day. You follow me?
But I do, possibly, and I think, it should have been designed to avoid flooding on your property. I believe that's what they're saying the design will accommodate. And that's basically all I can tell you on that one.
So can I just request again from the commission members availability or dates that you are not available? And again, just specific to the tree plan before we start talking about other aspects of the site.
Tuesday is generally not good for me over the next 2 weeks, but most other days I should be fine, especially if the more warning I get, the better. But I should be fine, be able to make something happen. Again, late afternoons usually better for me, but I can switch stuff around if need be.
Thank
And
you.
Rebecca, it's Bill. I'm not around the 27th or the 28th, but I am around all next week.
Jillian?
Yep.
I can't hear you, Jillian.
Sorry. Friday mornings are generally good. I cannot do the 24th or 25th. Or the 31st or the 3rd.
Okay. And I know everyone's schedules are filling up, so we're going to try and schedule that as soon as possible before other things are booked out. Do Bill or Jillian, do either of you prefer a morning or later in the afternoon?
No, I don't prefer either.
Okay.
And it depends on the day.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
All right. So I will then take what you've stated this evening, and I will email Rachel and our tree warden and try to coordinate a date that works for the primary group. Does that sound reasonable, Rachel?
Yep, I just checked my email and it looks like the tree warden actually got back to us. That he says it's available anytime Monday through Friday during the day for the next 2 weeks. So we have the ability to work this out, schedule it in.
Great. Mr. Chair, I will hand it back to you. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions or comments from members of the public tonight? And it sounds like we'll probably be continuing to get us out there for this site visit.
I see no more questions or comments from the public.
Okay. In that case, Rachel or Scott, is it okay if we continue until our next public hearing?
Yeah, we understand that there needs to be a continuance to be able to see the site and have the tree warden. I think he'd said to me he was going to try to write something up tonight to get to Rebecca tomorrow, something along those lines, so that you guys can have something in writing from him. So I understand that you'll need time for those. I do think that we've really I think we've answered everything that's come up from the commission at least. And I think Dean's done a great job of going over this critical root zone information, so.
Okay. Okay. In that case, I'm gonna make a motion that we continue the public hearing for Century Mill Road, map 3.D, parcel 75, until our next public hearing, Tuesday, February 1st, 2020 at 7:50 p.m. Do I hear a second for continuing?
I second Brian.
All right, all those in favor, starting with Bill,
Aye.
Jillian,
Aye.
and Rebecca, I'm an I as well.
Wonderful, thank you. And Rachel, I will be corresponding with you to coordinate that site visit.
Great, thank you so much.
Scott, if you could please stop sharing your screen, that would be helpful. Thank you.
All right. Rebecca, does it look like anyone is here for 7-11, 7-13?
I see no one for that particular item.
Okay. Well, it was just an introduction, not an official public hearing. So I see no reason why we can't simply table it until our next meeting.
We'll note that and encourage them to be present or give me an update before the next meeting, so I know whether they are coming or not.
Excellent. All right. I think we went through everything else on the agenda. I will ask again if any commission members have any new business or funny stories they want to share. Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion that we hereby adjourn our Tuesday, January 18th, 2022 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. Do I hear a second for adjourning?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Bill,
Aye.
Jillian,
Aye.
and Rebecca, I am an I as well. Thank you all. Have a lovely evening.
Thanks.